Hey, there we are.
How's it going, man?
Good, good. How you doing?
I'm good. You hear me okay? I forgot my mic. Yeah, just on my headphones. Does it sound all right?
Oh yeah. I do I
You know how
sound
people
okay?
are.
I'm okay
Yeah,
on
people
your
on
end?
YouTube. Yeah, they get so finicky, right? If it's not like good lighting or the right sound or something.
The viewers tell me my audio sucks. I'm like, my audio sounds like everyone else's audio. I don't know what you're talking about, but whatever.
I know there's some people like really are like sensitive to that, and you're probably dealing with that a lot more now that you're like way more in the YouTube world, right?
Yeah, now that
Uh,
it's kind of my only thing going. So
so for those of you who don't know, my guest today is Mr. Ron Harris, the what I would consider definitely the premier bodybuilding journalist in the sport, probably the OG at this point, right? With Peter McGuff, RIP. You're kind of the link between the legacy media days, right? When did you actually first start even making money covering bodybuilding?
so I got into the media side of it way back in 1991 when I was 21 years old. Uh, on the TV production side, there used to be a company, actually, there still is a company called American Sports Network out in Rosemead, California, owned by a guy named Luzwick. And at the time, he did a monthly show on ESPN called American Muscle. And he also did event specials, 1 hour specials for Mr. Olympia, Ms. Olympia, Men's USA Championships, Women's USA, Arnold Classic. And I became an employee in January 91. So immediately I was going to the events, covering them for the TV show, and we would also do the big events covering that. So I
How
didn't
did
get
you even get that gig? Like, how did you even know about that? What was your connection to that?
yeah, so it was my last semester of college, Emerson College in Boston. It was a mass communications major, and they had something for seniors where your last semester was called an LA semester because Emerson's in Boston, but they had connections all over Hollywood and Los Angeles. So many Emerson graduates were working in TV and film out there, but you had to get an internship. You had to take two classes and do an internship in your related field, and I was watching the show ESPN American Muscle. I've been watching it for a while. I think it was the longest running show after Sports Center at that time on ESPN. And I said, I wonder if I could get an internship there. So I put a little demo reel together with like my student films, a resume, and a cover letter. And I was out there immediately doing an internship. And within a month, it was sort of against the rules, but he hired me. And I was only supposed to be there like 15 hours a week, but because the classes were at night, but I was working like 40 hours a week full time when I was still finishing up my senior year of college out there.
Well, that's awesome. So that was the start of it. Do you remember where you were in Cali? You were in Hollywood. What part of Hollywood?
Oh, so well, the studio he didn't have a studio. His production office was in Rosemead, California, in San Gabriel Valley. LA people will know it. I was out there
No.
10 years. So if you know like Pasadena,
Yeah.
Temple City, San Gabriel, El Monte, it's sort of about 10 miles east of the city of Los Angeles. Yeah.
And what was that like a ESPN news show, like a clips and stuff of different bodybuilders or different shows, or what was that
It
at the
was
time? I remember a
American.
little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can find some of it on YouTube. People always ask me, "Can you get me tapes?" I'm like, "No, I don't have anything." But it was a monthly magazine format show, and it was like a bodybuilding magazine, but in TV format. We did contest coverage, athlete profiles, workouts, a Valio workout, Twin Lab muscle meals. John Romano did like a cooking segment called Twin Lab Muscle Meals. We had fashion on there, gossip. It really was just like a magazine. It was a really cool show. At the time, I didn't appreciate it, but I tell people now, I'm like, wow, really? That was on ESPN? I'm like, it was an hour-long show every month on ESPN.
Why do you think that kind of stuff went away, and why do you think like the IFB doesn't do something like that as far as like the WWE network or something like that?
I can tell you exactly why it went away. ESPN toward I'd say around 96 or so, they started putting a lot of pressure, or maybe they were getting a lot of pressure about the steroid aspect of the sport. It was just a bad look that ESPN didn't want to be associated with. Actually, it was sooner than that. So that's why Luz Wick, he created the Muscle Mania contest. So he would have something that he could continue to produce TV content for them, but it was drug tested and that would satisfy them. And we got away from the enhanced bodybuilders. The show was cut from 1 hour to half hour. It got moved from ESPN to ESPN2, and then eventually I left in '98. I think it only lasted another year or two after I was gone. But he kept doing the Muscle Mania and the Fitness America pageant. He still puts those on. I don't know where they're broadcast. But as far as why the IFBB doesn't do it, there's really no need. I mean, we because we have YouTube and pay-per-view and all these different things, who would really profit from it? How's there a way to make money off it when everyone's producing their own content now anyway?
Well, I think it would have to be kind of like the WWE model or something where it's like all the pay-per-views included. Maybe you pay extra for like the big ones, and it's part of like the ongoing content, kind of like the UFC does. You can do the guys that go up to Pittsburgh, you get them behind the scenes, maybe do some of the posing room stuff with Steve. I think bodybuilders are like we're hardcore fans, like we're real fans. Like we'll pay for shit if it's good.
No, I don't think I actually have to disagree with that one. But I think because bodybuilders get so much for free, they're it's just almost an entitlement mentality. Occasionally they'll pay, but like this last Olympia is a good example.
Well,
It was $75 for the pay-per-view. I'm sure you heard all the complaints. Oh, it's so much money for the pay-per-view. Yeah, it's not cheap, but I don't buy UFC fights. What's a UFC fight cost?
I think like their expensive one is about the same, like $75 if you get all the best one.
Okay, and that's
But
that's one
theirs is
night
much better. The Olympia stream was pretty much dog shit, though. I mean,
through. I mean, compared to that, but also you realize it went from Thursday to Sunday. It was 4 straight days of content, like day and night. It
yeah,
was probably like 50 hours of content altogether for that $75. I'm not saying it couldn't have been cheaper. I don't know. But yeah, I just don't know if it's everything has to make money. And because there's so much free stuff available on YouTube, so many people putting out really good content, I just don't see an incentive for anyone to do anything that would be something you would have to charge for.
yeah, they were promoters or someone. They'd have to all come together and agree with like a split and a payout because it'd be the people that are paying for the streams and stuff would be willing to pay for this kind of stuff.
Maybe. Yeah.
So you weren't at the Olympia, so we just had that. I don't want to. I'm sure you've talked a bunch about the Olympia, and I want to get more into kind of your career and your transition to a little bit later. But real quick, let's just talk about the Olympia real fast. What were your thoughts? Did you have Samson winning? Were you able to tell from the stream? Because honestly, I couldn't tell from the stream that like I would have given it to Samson or not. The pictures it was kind of clear.
Hey, the lighting did not favor darker skinned athletes at all.
I mean, I thought Martin looked great, but he's also the whitest.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I mean, so Samson, when you saw the high resolution images later, or you saw maybe a couple of the Gilco's right up on. They get up on the stage with them with the handheld cameras, so they don't have the same limitations with the cameras focusing on the black dark background and um, the contrast and all that. But I do think from everything I saw, I would pick Samson as well, and I'm really happy to see that it's moving away from extreme conditioning has to be there or else you can't win. I always felt if you have enough of all the other attributes, like obviously I'm older, I'm 55, and I lived through the Flex Wheeler era. I saw almost all the shows that he won in the U.S. I was pretty much there for all of them. I missed a lot of the ones he was at in Europe and everything, but he was rarely the most conditioned guy in the lineup. Rarely. Usually he was at about 85, 90% of where you would want him to be as someone who's a conditioned snob. But he had that shape, the size, the structure, everything was just so good. The total package beat other guys who might have usually did have superior conditioning, but they couldn't match him on shape and symmetry, size, all the other attributes put together. So I was happy to see this. It's not that I'm not a tall guy myself, so it's not like I was rooting for the short guys and now I'm angry that the taller guys are winning. I like to see that wide shoulders, small waist, that X frame, and these guys have it. Samson has it. Andrew has it. Quentin Aria, I think someone we're going to be seeing up at the top very soon up in Canada.
Those were
Um,
three Nigerians, ethnic background. So they
Blessing
definitely
Blessing
got
needs
the
to get
best
his
of the
act
gene
together.
right? Can you imagine? I mean, he was at the Olympia. I mean, realistically, if he didn't have the knee injury and his legs could be a little bit better, you could have four Nigerians making up the top 10. I mean, you could have two, three making up the top five, honestly, in a couple of
Yeah,
years.
yeah. I mean, it's,
Um,
it's interesting. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Andrew's kind of the modern day Flex Wheeler, like we were talking about, as far as having the beautiful shape and everything, just not quite bringing it in, dialed in like we need. Do you think he could have won if he came in and just peeled out of his mind this year? Or do you think Samson was too much?
No, Samson would take him, would still overtake him until Andrew gets those hamstrings better. So his side shots are as good as his front and his back shots. I don't see him beating Samson. I
What
could see
about
it being
Arnold?
second place. Second
Yeah,
place.
I think so too. What about the Arnold Hottie? Do you see him winning this show over Samson?
Who's that?
Hottie from the Arnold earlier this year.
Oh,
Arnold
Hadi.
US. Yeah.
Oh, I don't see him beating Samson, no, unless Samson's even, lesser conditioning. Because Hadi was still in better condition than Samson this time.
Yeah.
And so even Derek was in better condition than Samson. Martin was certainly in better condition. But it's just too much for him to handle with that. Honestly, the first time I ever saw Andrew compete, because I was at that Arnold where he turned pro in the amateurs, but I didn't go to the amateur portion. So I saw him for the first time that August in Texas. And when he walked out with the lineup, you couldn't take your eyes off him because he's just so big and wide with that little waist and the round muscles just flowing off these tiny joints. It was just such an overwhelming sight. Yeah, I mean that to me, that's the future. That's the future. And not to say that Hadi couldn't get the title again or Derek couldn't come back and get it again. I don't, that's one dangerous thing from any big show, especially the Arnold Olympia. People want to say there's a trend now, there's a new standard, and this is what the judges want. And then the next show, something they pick a different guy. I mean, the Arnold could be a shorter, thicker guy. Could be like a Nick Walker. Could be a Hadi already said he's not doing it. I don't think Derek's going to do it. But it could be someone of that type of physique. Just because one type of physique wins a big show doesn't mean, oh no, this is all the judges want to see from now on. And if you're not that type of physique, you're screwed. So it's not like that.
Definitely not in bodybuilding. I do feel like they have that in some of the other divisions, right? Like Sid was definitely what they wanted the women's figure to look like. Obviously Bumstead, and sometimes they just change the direction, right? And then the champion ends up losing because they've decided they're going in a different direction of the division. But that's not really bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is always a little bit of a combination of who's got the most muscle, who's got the best shape, who's got the best condition. They just kind of tend to put a little more emphasis on one of those every now and then. So I kind of thought the Hottie from the Arnold would have been a really good challenge for Samson, but it could just be he looks so much better on the stream and the lighting.
Yeah.
What would you think? How do you think Beirut would have done?
He probably would have been realistically somewhere around fifth, sixth, seventh, somewhere in that realm. He certainly was going to win. And I don't think he was going to be beating Hadi or even Derek being not at his best, or Martin. Is he really going to beat Andrew Jack? I don't know. I don't know. So fifth at best, probably more realistically like six, seven, eight, somewhere in that range, which is still six, seven, eight in the world, still damn good. I hope we do see that. I hope he gets his visa.
Yeah, I mean it's what 3 years in a row. That blows, man.
And
And
he keeps preparing for the show all the way up until the last minute, hoping against all hope that it'll come through at the last minute. And he'll get to the show, but I feel horrible for the guy.
I
It's
know,
not his fault. He's from a country that we have such horrible diplomatic relations with, and we don't want Iranians. I mean, meanwhile, many other countries just basically walk across the border, and we got this awesome athlete that can't get here for one weekend to compete.
it just needs to like go to Mexico before and then
Yeah,
do cross over there.
few people have
Uh,
suggested that.
what do you think? I mean, one thing I'm glad that he can do Dubai show now that they made that a big money one. At least he gets a chance to go over there and make some actual money.
Yeah,
Uh, suppose Keon had been in the Open, where do you think he could have placed?
I think Keon would have been right around fourth, fifth as well, sixth. Yeah, he's not big enough. I mean, that might even be a stretch. I think at 205 pounds, which is what he was when he just won this 212 for the second year in a row, he would have probably been a strong sixth or eighth guy, but I don't see him getting past that until he outgrows that division. I've said it many times in some reviews, some things I've talked about the show. I see Keon moving to open in 2, 3, 4 years, 2 to 4 years when he outgrows the class. Hopefully not longer than that, because I think he has the potential at 220, 225. I think he could be Mr. Olympia. I mean, if Hadi could do it, move up from 212, Derek did it. Keon's got better shape and structure than any of them. He
Yeah,
just needs the mass and needs to refine it a little bit more, get that mature, seasoned, detailed look. And he'll be Mr. Olympia one day if he does that.
he seems so locked in now, like on a different level this last year. Even before he won the title, like the repeat, he seemed to be on a whole different level. And he was with Patrick Tor, right?
Last year,
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Is he still with Patrick Tor?
Yeah,
He's with
yeah.
Pat. Yeah, yeah.
Second season with him.
Yeah, I mean, when Pat gets a guy to really buy in, most of the time, I know he had some issues with James, but they seem to really do really well. I think he brought Ian his best look. A lot of the things he does with some of those European guys, they have a cool look to them. A lot of times, kind of like a fullness that you don't always see.
He's really good with conditioning. There's a my buddy Giles Thomas over in UK. He's a good friend of Patrick, and he's always watched the athletes. And when I cover the European shows, watch the streams, the Patrick Tour clients, they're usually in really good condition. He doesn't miss very often at all. He's got a great track record.
Yeah, for sure. So the production for the Olympia was like really long, right? Like super long. I mean, we've got like 60 competitors in certain divisions. We've only got like five. I mean, the fact that we only have five classic physique guys that get to pose is kind of crazy. And I get that they have to rush everything there. But if you were in control, because I've got some ideas, say you were in control of the IFBB and the Olympia, you had absolute total control, you still want to make money. Are there any changes you would make to make the Olympia a little more palatable for like athletes and fans? Especially you. I mean, you're on the East Coast, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I've had this discussion with people like, what are some options? What could you do? These divisions like bikini, men's physique, women's figure, classic physique. There are so many contests throughout the year, and what are you going to say? You can't you want to show, but you can't get to Olympia based on that. So you're going to have there's every weekend there's like a pro show. You'll see a lot of big amateur shows, and they'll tack on just two divisions. It'll usually like bikini and men's physique, or wellness and bikini, or classic. Open, there's a lot. Open doesn't have as many shows, obviously, because the sanction fees are higher, and there's less open pros as well. So what do you do? I mean, one thing we've thrown around an idea is have like a preliminary cut day or something where you cut it down to the top 15 people in every division, because the Olympia is supposed to be very elite. It's the best in the world. 60 people are on stage in one division. To me, that's not very elite. I mean, I like the format of the Arnold. The Arnold doesn't have to play by anybody's rules, so they've eliminated divisions that they weren't making money with, or that they didn't feel their base was buying into. It's an invitation only, so they cap it at, I think it's 15. You never see more than 15 people in any division at the Arnold. So the show moves pretty quick, especially since they dropped divisions that they didn't want to put on. Olympia, they're obligated to put on every single division, which I think, including wheelchairs, 12 different divisions. I think Jan Solomon said there were 350 athletes in the show this year. I mean, it's a lot of athletes to get through. So I without either having a cut day or saying,
So that
well,
would be
if
like
you're
Thursday, or that's kind of what they almost do in a way for prejudging, right?
but I mean, then you have, yep, there's so much going on. You also have the amateur Olympia going on. It's a lot of work, and I don't know if there's a way to do it without either slighting people or seeming unfair. Like, I had one idea is like, well, what about if in bikini if you didn't win one of like four or five top tier shows to qualify, you have to have two wins to get to Olympia. But I mean, then you start offending people like, well, why do we have to do that? And this division doesn't have to do that.
Well,
Because
you just said because they have 50 shows.
but every division, you they feel they're as good as any other division. And who are we to say, well, this division is not as good as, or as prestigious as, it doesn't have the same value as that division. Yeah, we can't go there. They have to, the Olympia especially, they have to treat all the divisions equally. They have to be inclusive, or else it starts trouble. So I don't know if there's a way around it. I think they did a better job. They did keep things moving this year. We weren't up as late as we have been in years past. And yeah, you say, well, only five classic guys got to pose. That's the saying. See, there's an upside and a downside to everything. If you let 10 guys pose now, that's another like 10 minutes of time that you're keeping people in their seats and watching the pay-per-view, keeping people up later and later and later. You're on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. What about all those poor people in Europe? They're 5 and 6 hours ahead of me. Yikes. They were up, like Giles, who was helping me out with some coverage. He was up till like 8 in the morning. He was up literally all night with me doing this thing. So yeah, I mean, no easy answer, Jonathan. No easy answer.
I mean, I'm on the West Coast, yeah, but I still went to bed before the finals were over. It's like I can't quite make it. It was like 11. I was like, I got to go down. I got to work early. You know, I think that, I know a lot of stuff wouldn't be realistic, but I do think you're kind of onto something. They have to temper the amount of people. They have to be having internal discussions because this costs them a lot of money too, right? Aren't they paying for all the athletes? Like
Yeah.
that's got to be a huge expense. So, I mean, I think you're right. What I think they should do for the other divisions, and I know you say it's like we don't want to like discount the other divisions, but it is fucking bodybuilding. That's what this all started. That's what people pay for. Everyone's paying for the bodybuilding. So I think win a show you're in for bodybuilding, it's going to end up being 15 to 20 anyway. It won't ever really be much more than that. But I think if we could limit it to 15 by, like you said, have a couple of top tier shows that are like automatic entries. You win the Arnold or New York Pro, you're automatically in. And then you have kind of like what they did for a while. Did they have like a tier system where you could get points off of shows and then just cap it at 15? And so if you have to do another show, I mean, that's what it is. I know it kind of sucks, but we have to figure out some way. No matter what, someone's going to feel like they're getting fucked over some way if they make any good
Exactly.
changes. And then that way we could have more posing rounds and stuff like that and actually spend more time prejudge because you can't judge all 60 people, man. There's definitely somebody who's getting a little short end of the stick in some division.
I mean, they do a phenomenal job. I mean, the judges, people love to shit on the judges, but they have such a task.
No, it's crazy hard.
Imagine 60 classic physique guys come out on stage, 30 on one side, 30 on the other. Yeah, you can spot, okay, there's Bumstead, there's this guy. We know these guys, but they really are doing their very best to make sure they're not missing anyone who really deserves to be in that first call out. And then like, well, okay, now we have to go down the line. Who's worthy of the next call out, the next call out, the next call out? And for the most part, I only saw maybe I just want to keep using classic as a standard example. I saw maybe 6 to 8 guys who really didn't look like they should be at the Olympia. I was like, what show did this guy win? That's what I'm thinking. But for the most part, the third call out of classic,
Yeah.
they still look phenomenal. If you didn't know that was the third call out, you're just like a casual fan. You'd be like, wow, that guy could be the champ because they're all so damn good. What do you do? There's no easy answers. There's no easy solutions.
Well, they did get rid of women's bodybuilding for a while, so they were able to take that out. And I know Jeff Wood is all about it, so he wouldn't. But honestly, I would be totally fine if he just kept the Wings of Strength, had that be the big women's bodybuilding show, and kept them on that. And I have a thought that I don't think it would ever happen, but I don't know. Tell me what your thoughts are. Like I think if they had like 212 not at the Olympia, like maybe have that with Wings of Strength, maybe have a 212 championship, have 212 shows all throughout the year. You compete for the 212 championship. No one considers 212 Mr. Olympia. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're really taking the prestige. And then what I think you should do is whoever wins that, same thing, whoever wins the Masters, they get to go into the Open Olympia with the big boys. And I think that would actually create some excitement for the 212 kind of championship. And then all week long, next 2 weeks, everyone's talking, how's Keon going to do? Is he going to make top five? Is he going to make top 10? Because again, I'm just looking at ways to we don't need 7 hour prejudges and 5 hour night shows. That is crazy.
They can't do that. They can't take any divisions out of the Olympia because you say take 212 out and wellness. You're going to keep wellness at the Olympia. It's only been around for 3 years. I mean, they can't do that. They have to have all the divisions at the Olympia. I mean, I've been a big supporter of 212 division the whole time. A good friend, Jose Raymond, Flex Lewis, I know pretty well. A lot of the guys. I mean, they deserve to be in the Olympia as much as the Open guys. Certainly more. If we're going to go on a merit system, they work damn hard. I mean, I don't want to shit on any divisions, but if you're telling me bikini deserves to be at the Olympia and 212 doesn't, I can't agree to that statement. I'd be like, no way, no way.
Yeah, and I appreciate 212 way more than any other one. I'm just thinking from a business standpoint, possibly because again, I don't think that's something that brings in a ton of money. It's a pretty high payout for the Olympia, and I do think that could bring some hype to that. And then honestly, what I would be fine with, and I know this would never happen. I'm sure you're not down. I think they should just take physique and bikini and have that like move that to a championship in Miami during the summer, make it a big thing, get all these fitness influencers, get a different crowd. That's not the crowd that's paying for the Olympia tickets and get rid of them because that's fucking 120 people at the Olympia.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, we can't take anybody out of the Olympia. We can't. It's the Olympia is supposed to be the ultimate goal for all the athletes, regardless of division. It would just never fly. Even the idea would never get past
No, no,
like
but
the first 10 minutes of one meeting. I promise you.
no,
They'd be
no,
like,
I
no,
don't think
no, we're
any
not
of this
doing
is
it.
possible. But if I had control, so what were your thoughts when they took out the women's bodybuilding? Were you pretty like upset about that?
I was because I followed women's bodybuilding, because when I came up, all we had were men's and women's bodybuilding. It was just two divisions. And especially when I was going to the shows in the 90s and covering them for ESPN, Ms. Olympia was held on a separate date, like a month apart from the Mr. Olympia, totally different city, and it was selling out. I mean, they had big auditoriums just there for the Ms. Olympia, an expo just for the Ms. Olympia.
They
Nothing
also
else
look different
supported.
then.
It
It's a
was
different look a
different. I
little
mean,
bit. Yeah.
this is the Linda Murray years. This is just coming off the Corey Everson years.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I was a little upset because I knew a lot of them personally because we had them on the TV show, so I was familiar with a lot of them and saw the disappointment that they expressed at having their division just one. I think one year, the last year before it was completely gone, the Ms. Olympia was canceled, and then at the last minute, the late Bob Bon and late Kenny Castle, they picked it up and put it on in a high school in New Jersey just so that they would have a Ms. Olympia that
Yeah.
year. And after that, it went away for 5 years. I think it was gone. But yeah, I mean, Jake Wood has been a godsend to women's bodybuilding because he's a huge fan. His Wings of Strength page, that's what it started out, was just covering. It was all about women's bodybuilding. So when he bought the Olympia, he made sure they were gonna get first class treatment again. They would never have to worry about losing their division the way it was like that.
Let me ask you this. Now, I'm a big fan of the figure division. Do you feel like it's kind of like in no man's land now that we've got wellness getting so popular? Like, I honestly almost feel like they could break that off and branch that out into, some go to wellness, some go to women's physique.
They're so similar divisions. Wellness just has a more developed lower body. That's it.
Yeah,
From the waist up, if you couldn't see the legs, you wouldn't know who was figure and who was wellness.
that's what
You
I'm
know, I,
saying.
I mean, I rolled my eyes every time a new division was created. I was like, oh no, 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 another division, another division. Now they're gonna wear board shorts on classic, everything. I fought every single division when it started. And then as the years went by, like, okay, all right, I get it, I get it. There's a place for them. Figure, I was never that much of a fan of I appreciate all the divisions, all the athletes, certainly respect all of them because they work hard, but I just never really was a huge fan of figure. So Sidney Gillen, the one great thing is now somebody else gets to win. So there's that excitement and anticipation for next year. Same thing with Classic. Classic was. I wonder how many people were Classic Physique fans and how many were Chris Bumstead fans.
We'll see.
The division's going to thrive regardless. I mean, every young kid, I don't know how old you are, but everyone I talk to who's basically under the age of 30, they follow Classic a lot more closely than they do open bodybuilding. They wear the Bumstead shirts and they're talking about the Wesley and Bumstead and Ramon Dino. Every Brazilian kid that lifts weights, they're a Ramon Dino fan. But figure, yeah, I mean, like I said, I can't comment too well about it because I just don't follow it that closely.
Who do you see taking over that mantle from Chris Bumstead? Or do you think it's going to bounce around, or do you think Urs or somebody can become the new face?
I mean, obviously, what's his name that just took second? What's
Mike
his name? Mike
Mike
Sommerfeld.
Summerfeld. Yeah,
He's the obvious. I did a video a few days ago on my channel, Ron Harris Muscle, who will be the next Classic Physique champ. So Mike's the obvious choice. Urs right behind him. Ramondino, if he can get his act together. I don't know if Breon can get it. I'm personally rooting for Breon because he's turning 45 in like a couple weeks. To see somebody that age recapture the title would be amazing.
that,
He
what a
was,
bummer he didn't get to pose, right? Like, or his song during his
yeah,
routine. That was,
yeah.
that was
But
such
he
a
rolled
bummer.
with it. He still
Yeah,
did a great routine.
the pro.
And Wesley, if Wesley needs to get those legs up, those thighs, he's not winning with the thighs he has right now. It's just not going to
Yeah,
happen. He needs some sweep because he's got such great width up across the shoulders and upper back. He's a tall guy. I've stood next to him. He's got to be 6'2", maybe taller than that.
yeah,
Um, and don't forget Rough Diesel, Terrence Ruffin coming back next
yeah,
year. He's had time to grow. That's all he really needed to me was a little more size. Crazy, beautiful shape and symmetry on that guy. Just to me, it was like, I wish he was a little bigger and fuller. That's it. That's all I ever wanted out of him.
yeah. I'm
But
excited to see what he looks like now. And then the guy, what did he get? Like sixth or seventh?
yeah,
Josema.
yeah, yeah. 22
I
years
don't.
old.
Yeah, he was a bodybuilder, right? Didn't he get like second in a European show or something? Didn't he?
Yeah, he turned pro in bodybuilding. He did 212 and then transitioned to classic. That's another one.
I think he was open, wasn't? Didn't he do open?
I
He's a
think he
big
might have
dude.
tried an open. I think he did do an open
I
show.
think he got like second place. I think he's got
Did he
second
really?
to what's the real shredded guy that was a Cito's guy
Good
last
question.
year? Oh man, I'm going blank on, but the real super
Anyway,
shredded guy. But yeah, I think he got second. I think he got like fifth, and then I think he got second in one show, and then he decided to switch to classic. So I don't know if he's got any room to improve for classic or if he's as big as he can get. But to me, he looks kind of like a better version of Logan Franklin. I mean, he's a little more bodybuilder-esque, but he can present himself really well. I think he looks awesome. And then the dude who got 11th, right? The now one punch on IG
Niall. Yeah,
with
people. I
no
can't remember.
weights.
Yeah, Niall. What the hell is his name? Yeah, people were pointing him out to me. He was
Darwin, right?
Niall Darwin. I mean, there's, you
Yeah,
know what? You could name probably potential. We talk about potential. There's probably like 5 or 6 guys who are not in the top 10 at this Classic Olympia, but they do have the potential to be future champions. Because I mean, the talent pool for Classic, it's years ago when there was just open. That was our whole talent pool. But now we see some of the genetics being diverted to other divisions.
a lot of them,
There's,
most of them.
yeah, I mean, a lot of these people, a lot of these guys in Classic, if they really wanted to go open, if they want to do the extra food, the extra PDs, whatever it takes to put on that amount of size, they would do very well. But a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of them are choosing, they're like, no, I don't want to. Like, remember, Bumstead was getting hounded for years. You got to go open. You got to do an open show. Why? He's like, why?
Yeah,
Why? For what? For who? He's doing
exactly.
great in every act. He's the champion of the world years in a row. He's killing it financially, killing it with a fan base. Why? Why on earth would he do that? For what? Well, 600,000. He doesn't need to worry.
Jeez.
There's
That
like, why didn't he get paid as much as Bumstead doesn't wasn't worried. He wasn't worried about it. Trust me, he was not worried about
yeah,
getting
he,
less
he he
money.
could have done the payout. He's changed the whole game. You want him to be a sponsored athlete, he takes half your company, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And he's going to put out his own money next year to boost the
Yeah,
prize money for Classic. So
yeah.
good on him, man. That's a hell of a move.
Yeah, he's definitely leaving some big shoes to fill as far as, being an ambassador and just someone who is so well loved by everybody. You never hear anyone say anything about. I've never heard one bad thing about Chris at
Yeah,
all.
what are you going to say? He has a
Yeah,
list. Come on.
yeah. I got to talk to him for about like 20 minutes before his first Olympia. We were just sitting there. He didn't have any kind of like a line or an audience or anything. I think he got
Wow.
second right in his first one. And so like after that, it was totally new. But he was so humble, so quiet, and so like just happy to be there.
Yeah. He's still that kid. I mean, I didn't know him that well, but I can tell he's one of those people. He keeps his circle small and he keeps people around him that have known him his whole life. So he's always stayed humble. He knows where he came from. He's in the back of his mind, he's like this. You could, when you have that attitude like of gratitude, like I'm grateful for everything, because you could lose, anybody can lose all you've got at any time. You don't know what's going to happen in your life. So I really admire the kid. I call him a kid. He's 29 years old. I'm going to miss him. We're all going to miss him, but we were fortunate to have him around, and I am glad to see him leaving, going out on top with his whole life ahead of him. He's still young. He's got his health. He's got a new baby. He's got a great future ahead of him. So yeah, Chris Bum, C Bum's a man.
Yeah, hopefully he sticks around and is a figure in the industry and doesn't become too big for us. I think he
Yeah,
will. Even Arnold, Arnold stayed in the industry. He didn't leave
yeah,
us. Too bad. He
right.
kind of took a little break. So that's a big storyline for next year is who's going to take over the mantle for classic physique. What are some of the potential storylines you're looking forward to? You're thinking about as far as like the pro bodybuilders for next year or this season?
I want to see this. Well, the season's only got a few post Olympia shows left. So I think next year, I mean, the Arnold's going to be a huge show. We've already got Mr. Olympia Samson Dowda committed to it. Andrew Jack is committed to it. I did a story, a video yesterday. Nathan Dasha finally got a visa
Yeah,
thanks to Arnold and Brian Powers. They were able to get him a visa to come to the U.S. I don't know who else is in. I imagine. Oh God.
Hani said Derek's in the air. I don't think he will, but he didn't say he's a no. He didn't say he hasn't
Yeah.
made his mind up for sure.
I don't feel. I don't. My gut tells me he won't do it, but I think Fitzwater will do it.
Yeah,
And Fitzwater was denied last year. He applied and they didn't. They said,
yeah,
"No, no, thanks. We don't need you." So, and he ends up getting fourth in the world. Arguably, he could have been third.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I
I'm just
yeah,
curious
I
to see that the Arnold's going to set the tone for the rest of the year. But uh, there's a lot of excitement over this last Olympia and the results, and I think a lot of people want to see. Can Samson get any better? Can Andrew Jack get it together? Because the flu. There's a lot of storylines. Can Derek Lunsford get recapture that best look he had, or even improve? Hottie, the Hottie fans, Ramondino. There's so many athletes that didn't perform as well as expected at the Olympia, that a lot of people are going to be watching them very closely to see what they do in 2025.
So I know somebody else who's hoping to get into the Arnold, and we'll see. And I think this is a great storyline. My buddy Sergio,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I know he's trying to compete into the year, early next year, and then parlay that into an Arnold. And I'm friends with Sergio. I love Sergio. I think he's a great dude. I think I get so offended because he gets so much hate online, and it just pisses me off so much because he literally, he's never said a bad word about anybody. He is so passionate about the sport, and people give him shit for like making excuses and stuff, but it's like, there is some shit like you getting stuck in Dubai jail for months, and it's like, you know, I think he gets a really bad rap by some people. Some people seem to like hate him, and everyone else seems to love him. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does this year because now he's a little healthier. His shoulders looking pretty good. And last time I saw him, he was fucking huge. I saw him like in July, and then I saw him like a month later in August, and he was 35 pounds heavier. Just
Yeah, I mean, the two guys who get the most unnecessary hate are Sergio Oliva Jr. and Hunter Labrada, and it's 100% because of their last names. People think, oh, he had everything handed to him, born with a silver spoon, and Sergio, his story, his dad didn't do shit for him.
yeah.
His dad tried to keep him from bodybuilding. He tried to help stop people from helping him along the way.
Mm,
He was absolutely no support. Wasn't the greatest dad to him, I don't think,
no.
in many ways. So yeah, I mean, when people say he's a big fry baby, this and that, I don't think a lot of them know the whole story with Sergio, and how much he really does love the sport. And he sits there. He gets a lot of hate because he goes back and forth with people. Other people ignore like troll comments. He'll go back and forth with these people and call them out on their bullshit and say, you're. I could tell he calls out people that are making just ignorant, uninformed statements. Not only about him, but about like the way the sport's going
Yeah.
in general.
No
Sometimes he'll
filter.
do it on like threads of mine, and I just sit back with my popcorn, like, wow, he's tearing this guy a new one.
I
And
love it. Yeah.
and Hunter,
And
Hunter's a good kid too. He's a kid. He's early 30s. He's worked very, very hard to get where he is. His dad doesn't do the training for him. Hunter does all that. Hunter's put in a lot of hard work. Yeah, does he got a pec tear? He's got a hernia. It's not the perfect physique, but he's still top six in the world. He's been fourth in the world. Just people think, well, he'd be dead last if it wasn't for his last name. He just doesn't. He doesn't get much credit, and he deserves more credit. That's all.
yeah, most of the hate I hear about Hunter has to do about his physique too, more so than like personality or just just not liking him as much as it is for Sergio. But everybody loves a comeback, and I think Sergio is going to have a lot of people jumping on his side once he starts doing really good. Because I mean, he was fucking, what was it, 2020? He looked amazing at the Arnold, and he was all set to do the Arnold Australia. Looked so awesome. I mean, that was a great look, and then COVID happens, and he's just everyone's world is fucked. And so ever since then, he's been kind of trying to get that back and was on his way. And then we had the whole incidents with the Dubai and everything. So like now I think he's got everything in his life going really good. He's got a great relationship with this girl. She's awesome, amazing, helping him out. He's there in Vegas. He guys got his coach there. He's got Flex and Jay. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him put it all together because he really deserves it. And I know his personal goal is to win an Arnold Classic, and I think this year could be the start of that. If he, really comes in and makes some improvements, that could happen next year. I mean, he's got the size. I mean, he doesn't have to build anymore. He just has to come in diced, and he's shown that he can do that, but not consistently necessarily.
Yeah, I would love to see him win the Arnold Classic. I'd be the first one to stand up and cheer for him.
Yeah.
For sure.
Another cool storyline that I like, and we're going to be watching, is Martin and Brett together. I think that's really cool. We haven't had a dynamic like that in quite a while. There's always been something. You got Arnold and Franco, right? Who were some of the guys in the '80s that were like gym partners?
Well, Rich Gaspar and Lee Haney trained together for a
Yeah,
while.
that's right.
They
That's
lived
right.
together. You remember
Yeah,
Branch Warren and Johnny
yeah,
Jackson were training partners.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
there.
Gaspari and Haney were pretty high level. And that'll kind of be how these two guys are. And it just makes you excited for bodybuilding. It makes you want to go train when you hear them talking about it and you see their training videos. I think they push each other really well. I'm really looking forward to see what Brett looks like on the Olympia stage because he's taking off all year, right? And he's just going to be adding some size. That's a really cool dynamic. I think we need a lot more of that camaraderie kind of in bodybuilding.
When they talk about there's no camaraderie, and I've been around all these decades, and I see more camaraderie in some aspects now than there ever was in the old days. Because I
Yeah.
mean, now maybe guys aren't in person, but you'll see guys, collaborating on videos together, doing podcasts together. social media commenting on each other's pages and stuff. Honestly, back in the day, the guys kept to themselves more. They didn't really associate with each other the way they do now because they were separated by space. Everyone's sort of united by social media and YouTube and things like that now. So I actually think we have more camaraderie in some ways
Yeah.
than we ever did before.
Yeah, it does seem more like now than back in Arnold's day, whenever he was clowning on everybody. There's not that super alpha nowadays like there was back then when Arnold ran the show. Um, what do you think about like what's going on with Nick Walker? Do you think he's going to make the Olympia this year? What's your thoughts with this whole situation with? I mean, we don't have to dive into like the Matt Jansen stuff, but why do you think he pulled out? And like, do you think he's peaked? I personally think we've seen the best of him, and I know I don't want to sound super negative, but that's just my personal rational opinion.
Again, it's hard to say anything definitive because we don't know exactly. Is his health? Is he okay, health wise, or is he not? We don't know. He's not. I don't think he would come out and say if he was having some, kidney issue or something like that. He wouldn't make that a
But
public
when your body doesn't
knowledge.
respond, it's usually a health thing. You know what I mean? And he's somebody who's, done it time and time again, and he looks fucking 300 pounds lean off season. I mean, I don't know. We don't know, but I don't see him put the same off season health phase look that you see these other guys. And that was an issue between him and Matt whenever he left originally, is he wanted to jump into the Arnold. Matt wanted him to chill out and clean out. And so, I mean, I hope it's nothing health related, but I don't see a lot of other reasons why.
I mean, unless we can blame Matt completely and say, well, Matt wasn't really paying attention to him, and I don't know if that's the case or not. But if that was the case, if Matt wasn't really doing his due diligence and giving him the proper attention and wasn't really seeing that the fat wasn't coming off, if that's on Matt, and I don't know if it is, then we can't say that Nick's all done, he's washed up, because maybe Nick, people who know Nick have said this, they've defended him saying the kid's a machine. You tell him to do this XYZ, he'll do it without question. He doesn't slack on his diet, doesn't slack on cardio, trains like a beast. With pretty good form. I want to give him credit for
I'm not
that.
a fan of his form at all. He does
Really,
the
it's
whole
better than
RP
most.
he does the whole RP strength over big range. Like I actually just made a video kind of breaking down his whole like leg press and his whole leg day training, and his whole setup is to not build quads, and that's what he needs the most. His whole setup is adductors and hamstrings, the way he positions everything to get this crazy big range of motion. And it's not that that's a terrible thing, but put the pressure where you need. Put your feet a little more narrow, go a little lower, keep it on the inner part of your contact points, let those knees drive forward, build your quads. So I think he actually uses dog shit form. I think the whole RP strength form is not something I'm a big fan of, where everything's huge extended range of motion, just putting tension wherever you can to like get the motion to actually move. I'm much more of a fan of keeping your stack, keep your intra-abdominal pressure, stuff that we used to do back in the day. You always heard about stacks. Now I see kids just trying to hit the big range of motion. Like that's the key to growth. When we always want a good range of motion, but we want an active tension range of motion. And you're a big trainer. I mean, you're kind of your thing. Obviously, you competed quite a bit. Do you work out that way? Like if you're working out, do you go like build big extension on your chest press, or how do you actually do
I
your
do
style
full
work?
range. I use full range of motion on everything.
But what's
And
full
when
range?
I
So I'll use a full range. I'm still getting super deep, but I'm not going to do certain things like completely get a huge anterior tilt on a squat to try to get extra deep. I'm not going to flare my rib cage super crazy on the press to try to get a deeper stretch, because that's actually going to take a lot off, especially the sternal fibers.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you go back to leg training, obviously, if your feet are way out here and your toes are pointed out, you're coming back. That's not going to target. That's not going to activate the quads much. I mean, I'm always focused on what muscle. The feeling in the muscle is all I ever care about. If
Okay,
I'm not
exactly.
feeling it
That's
where I
big.
want to where I want to feel it. So, like chest, I know some guys only do the bottom stretch part, and then other guys will do only I never understood that. To me, the only two things I ever had that I was always getting compliments on were my chest and my quads. And I used a full range of motion. My squats, I went all the way down, ass to grass, all the reps, and never good with a barbell. With dumbbells, always got a good stretch, always went out for a full extension on that. I know a lot of people, I'm not going to argue about training because everyone's got their own theories. That heavy loaded stretch, I know there's a term for it, what do
The
they call
Lengthen
that?
partials, they're doing the LPs, the Lengthen
Yeah,
partials,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people they swear by that and whatever. I think there's a lot of different styles that seem to produce great results. So unless we have one style that definitively produces far superior results to any other style of training, you just have to sort of respect the various styles for what they are, and it comes down to a matter of personal preference, I think, in the end.
A
But
lot
to
of it.
put the, yeah, let's put the Nick Walker thing. I wouldn't give up on him just yet. Let's see what he does in 2025. If he flames out, if he comes back and looks horrible, then I might start to think, okay, he's all done. But I've seen people make comebacks from horrible injuries, from illnesses, from all kinds of horrible personal things that were going on in their lives. So I wouldn't be one bit surprised if Nick makes an awesome comeback. We love comebacks. We love to see somebody who's been knocked down just pick themselves back up and prove the haters wrong. So I'd love to see that with Nick.
Yeah, I hope he does. I mean, he lives the lifestyle. He's a true blue bodybuilder, and
He's
I got nothing but
he's
respect
a
for those
meathead.
guys.
He's a meathead like me.
He's
Yeah.
definitely, I used to watch him a lot on the Full Out podcast, when he was on there, and it'd be like, "Is Nick there? You there, buddy? You got something to contribute to this?"
Yeah.
I'm also kind of really excited to see a couple guys that took off the whole year, Regan and Justin
Mm.
Shire. I mean, Justin Shire has just got such a beautiful flow and shape. If he can put a little bit on sweep on those legs, he's going to be really dangerous. And Regan, he got top 10 already, right? And so
Yeah. Yeah.
he's pushing some size. How high potentially could you see Regan going next year at the Olympia? You think he could push
Uh,
for that top six, that first call out?
yeah, absolutely. He could. I mean, he's got a beautiful physique. He's got all the size he needs now, really. Just needs to dial it in. I thought he looked great at that last season. Was it 2023 when he did he won one of the European shows, qualified for Olympia there. Was it Romania that he won? It was one of
I
those
can't remember.
shows.
He did a couple of
Italy, I
them.
don't know. He looked pretty damn good to me. Could have been a little bit sharper, but yeah, look at the shoulder. I mean, he's so well put together. Justin, I remember just wanting to see more back from him.
Yeah,
Quads can come
back
up
to.
too, but back thickness is what is the downfall of a lot of these guys who look phenomenal from in their front and side shots. You're not going to be top five at the Olympia without a really nice thick back. It's just not going to happen.
Is there anybody who? So let's talk about people who haven't made the Olympia. Who do you think is going to make the Olympia next year? That'll be their first time.
Hmm.
Because I got a few guys in my head. I'm not sure who's going to make it, but
Right,
I'm thinking of Good Vito, Beef Stew,
right.
Stanimal, Jordan Hutchinson. I really think Jordan will make it for sure. If I had to pick one that I'm most confident about, it would probably be him and Good Vito. Good Vito just posted
Good
an update. It
Vito.
looked pretty good. Did you see
Good
that?
Vito. Out of all those names that you mentioned, I think Good Vito has the best potential. I like that
Yeah.
kid's physique a lot. He's so thick with still really good shape and structure. Yeah,
Did
very
you see his
exciting.
latest update? I think he posted one today.
No, I haven't looked at it.
Looked pretty good. Yeah,
Vitoli,
definitely.
Vitoli Olgolnikov. That's his
But
name.
again, you never
Great
really
talent.
know, right? With the with the IG for him, it wasn't that his thing. He was an IG bodybuilder, but he ended up looking pretty good on stage. Not quite as crazy as he is on the IG, but I think he's definitely going to probably make it next year.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I said. It's every season has surprises, and it's cool because not knowing what's coming and who's going to really rise, come out of nowhere and surprise us and shock us. To me, that's one of the most exciting things. To me, it was a little more boring in the old days when you had a very established group of pros for years and years. You always sort of knew who the top five, six guys were going to be. Every once in a while, someone would come along and break through, but it was rare. And we're seeing more and more of that. And we see it's a whole new guard up there now. The turnover is real. We've said goodbye to a lot of the veterans. They're gone. The Dexter era. Those guys are all gone. It's a
Why do you think
completely
that is now that we see the more turnover? You think there's more parity in bodybuilding as far as diet, drugs, training, or more just talent?
no. It's just the guys age out. The guys age out and they walk away and new guys come up. Um, yeah, I mean it's a good time. It's a great time for pro bodybuilding. I think it's a very exciting time, especially seeing the money getting better and better, more big money shows, and now with the Only Olympia really stepping up the prize money. I think it's an awesome time for pro bodybuilders, and I miss the magazines. That's one thing I'm in mourning over still, the magazines, because I made a great living writing for magazines for many many years, and now that's all gone. Everything's social media now, but it also, I have to concede, it's given a lot of opportunity to more people to create their own content, their own platforms, podcasts, YouTube channels, all kinds of venues that just were impossible back then when it was sort of these magazines and photographers. They were the gatekeepers to publicity, and if they didn't choose you, Nobody knew who you were. Nobody. If you weren't in those magazines, you were literally nobody in bodybuilding. So guys, they all went out to LA to be seen. They'd train at Gold's, they'd eat at the Firehouse, they'd stay at the Marina Pacific because they knew all the photographers hung out around that area. And that was the key back then. But you can create your own publicity now, your own fan base. We have guys that are making amazing livings that have never stepped on a stage and never will. And there's no need for it. So yeah, it's a whole new landscape, obviously, and I'm just trying to keep up with the times in my advanced stage.
Right. So that, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit. So you were doing the stuff for, well, it wasn't AMI, the ESPN thing. What was that called again? The
Yeah,
show?
American Sports. It was called American Muscle Magazine.
American
Yeah,
Muscle Magazine.
yeah.
So that ends. Do you go straight to muscular development, or what do you do
No,
next after that?
no. So when that ended, I was writing freelance for Ironman. So I started getting published in magazines in 19 early 92. Ironman magazine, I give them all the credit for. They were the first ones to take a chance and publish me. I was doing articles for them, and then from them I started submitting to the late Bob Kenny's Muscle Mag International. He gave me a lot of work. I owe him, the late Bob Kenny, a huge debt of gratitude, along with Johnny Fitness, Gino Edwards, who was running the magazine with him. Um, Planet Muscle, T Mag, if you remember, it was called Muscle Media 2000, was the first one that Bill Phillips had. I was writing for them, and then T Mag, T Nation, Testosterone. It went through a few different names. So I was freelance for years and years. Even MD, I didn't become a full time. I started writing for MD in 2001. I didn't become an actual employee of MD until 2017.
Oh
So
wow.
all those years, which was cool because I could write for anybody.
Yeah.
Once I was with him, once I became an employee, I got that senior editor position, online editor, dual position. Steve Bleckman, the owner, Steve wasn't very comfortable with me writing for anybody else, so I stopped all that. But I had a great run for many years writing for a lot of different magazines, and those are great times.
And you're doing writing mostly like competition coverage?
No, no. Most of my articles were interviews, profiles, training articles. I did a ton of training, literally thousands of training articles. Like I lost count at 5,000 articles that I had written. So I don't know I'll never know what the final tally was. And there's still in the future I could still be writing, but yeah, like it was Craig Titus's arm workout, Johnny Jackson's back routine, Branch Warren's leg work, leg blast. I did so many of those, and I did a lot of the Q&A columns for the athletes in the magazines, especially MD. At one time, I was doing 10 or 12 of those a month because when MD was thriving, when they were making great money with advertising and the magazine was 400 pages, we had at any given time about 20 to 25 athletes under contract being paid, where all they had to do was talk to me every month for 15, 30 minutes, and I would take the notes and write the article under their name, ghostwriting, as they call it. But it wasn't just me making shit up out of
Yeah.
pulling it out of my ass. I actually talked to these guys and got their answers. The columns were a big thing, training articles, interviews. Yeah, competition coverage, that didn't last too long because as soon as we had the capability of live streaming and posting pictures up in real time, which we were doing that by say the early 2000s, it became sort of obsolete to have coverage in a magazine 6, 7, 8 weeks later of a show that was long gone and it was already literally old news. Because
Yeah.
when I was a kid, when I was buying magazines, Mr. Olympia contest, say, so I started following the sport in 1987. We would call up gyms the next day.
Yep.
Do you have the top five? Do you have the top 10 of Mr. Olympia? Do you know who won? Because there was no internet. That's the only, we would literally just call up gyms and the gyms would keep a list at the front desk because somebody would give them the news. But we wouldn't see a single picture of the like 1987 Mr. Olympia. Say it happened September 1st. You wouldn't see a picture till like October 15th. Not one. There was no way. But back then it made sense. There would be like 10, 20 pages of Olympia coverage or Arnold coverage or Night of Champions coverage and contest coverage. Like the late Peter McGuff, it was an art form. If you were privileged enough to read,
Yeah.
he would make it so that you were there. You felt like you were sitting there right next to him, describing in detail everything that was happening. Even though there was photos to illustrate, he would describe every little aspect of their physique, the way they posed. But we'll never get that again because you can't make people wait for anything. It's
Yeah.
now, now, now.
Was he the nickname guy, or is that Lonnie, or a little bit of both
That
of
was
them?
Lonnie. That was Lonnie Teeper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I love
Lonnie
Lonnie.
actually came up with my wife's nickname, the Cuban Missile.
I love Lonnie. He's great. I wish he still did Bob's job. Honestly, I love Lonnie. I think
Yeah, he's
he
cool, dude.
I did his show a couple years ago out in Riverside.
Yeah,
Really, really cool
I
dude.
knew Lonnie. I still know Lonnie, but I knew him pretty well because he trained at the same gym in Pasadena that we all went to. It was a world gym for years, and then it became a gold. But I used to see Lonnie every day, or almost every day.
Yeah, he's all about it. And so you started working for Muscular Development full time in 17 as their what was it? Online editor and what else?
Yeah, senior writer and online editor. I was like the sixth guy, sixth or seventh person to have that online editor job. Nobody had lasted like more than a year and a half. I think so. Dave Palumbo was the first online editor when the website began in 2005. And we started doing videos. It was him and Romano really were running that website and putting out all the video content. Dave and John got fired. Then anyway, I was like the sixth or seventh person to have that job, and people said you won't last. You're not going to last more than a year. And I lasted from 27 January 2017. I was hired, and November 13th, 2023 is when we all got the phone call from Steve that he was shutting down the company, and it was over.
Now,
So
in 2017, when you took that job full time, I mean, things had already been changing, right? In the landscape of everything, magazines were really quickly going the way. Did you have that in the back of your mind? Were you wondering, like, okay, how long is this going to last? Do I need to start doing things on my own? What was your thought process then?
you know, my wife was actually a lot more savvy in that aspect. She says, this isn't going to last forever. The writing was on the wall that you could see that there were money problems. You could see it was the advertising revenue was the main issue. You couldn't get as soon as social media came along, any print magazine's main income stream back then, it wasn't subscriptions, it wasn't newsstand sales. That was a fraction of their profit margin. It was advertising. So at one time, magazines like Flex and MD could charge $10,000 for one page print ad, and they were getting it. They were getting it. The magazine was 400 pages, and it was about half ads. So do the math. They were doing very, very well. That's why he had all those athletes under contract. I can remember going to just tell you how good the money was at one time. I can remember long before I was a full time employee going to cover the Arnold or the Olympia with as part of the MD coverage team, and we would have like a 3-page printout of everyone that was on our team, quote unquote team, that was supposed to be helping out with the coverage. And most of them were just athletes that were under contract and their wives or girlfriends. They didn't help us at all, trust me. But Steve would fly them out. Steve should get a lot more credit for that. He would fly them to Olympia, put them up at the hotel, and they didn't actually do any work or anything. He was just proud to have them all. We're part of the MD team.
Yeah.
What was the? I lost my the thread there.
Well,
But
like
yeah,
about the
advertising.
writing on the wall. Yeah, whenever you
Yeah,
took the job
yeah. I
full
mean,
time.
the magazine was getting smaller and smaller. Like I said, it was 400 pages. The last the last 3 or 4 years that it was in existence, it was about 125 pages. Significant loss because, like I said, once social media came along, if you own Jonathan Supplement Company, you could either pay a magazine $10,000 for one page ad that's going to reach 50,000 people, maybe, if you're lucky, versus you give some influencers, some guy that's got 500,000 followers, you give him free supplements and maybe a discount code, and he's going to post every damn day. He's going to get your product ad out to 500,000 people every single day. What would you do? Obviously, you're going to go with that. So it was just times change. It's like silent movies became talking movies, became streaming video streaming. So everything evolves and changes. So I'm just I try to just be grateful that I was lucky to be part of that magazine industry toward the last, say, 20, 25 years of its heyday.
So did you have any kind of like plans in place for like transitioning when it was gone? Were you trying to pick up your online coaching or anything? You were just gonna, I'm just gonna ride this till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I was signed with Muscle Tech, producing written and video content for them. So I had that for a while too, even after MD was gone. I have my coaching. I don't do a whole lot of that. You can DM me, guys, or Ron Harris Muscle if you want to be coached. But yeah, I didn't have anything in place. So I was just sort of hoping it would. I honestly thought Steve could keep the magazine going indefinitely. like, because we were running, we had a shoestring budget. We were on a the staff had been reduced greatly. I thought he had sort of pared it down enough so that we could keep operational expenses down enough. I never had an insight into all the money and stuff. That wasn't my department, but I really thought he could keep it going. But I honestly think two things. He was getting older. He just wanted to be done. He was a workaholic all the time I knew him. He was somebody who probably worked 12 to 16 hours a day, every day. That's what he thrived on, was being busy and working, always on the phone, always emailing. And I think he finally decided it's enough. I'm over 70 years old now. Maybe I have another 20 years left on. I'm gonna enjoy whatever time I got without working all damn day and night. And I think, yeah, the advertising revenue, it wasn't sustainable anymore. But yeah, no, I didn't have anything. I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have a plan B,
Did it
unfortunately.
get sold or it just kind of dissolved? How'd that happen?
He just let go. I mean, he entertained a couple offers to buy it, and I just think they weren't to his liking. The offers weren't high enough. I mean, somebody could have come along. I don't know if I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I think the brand it's still a viable brand. Someone could
Yeah,
come along with vision, with financial backing, and they could take that brand, like say they got rid of Flex magazine and they decided, oh, we're not going to do anything with it. And someone came along and said, yeah, I'll buy Flex magazine. That's still, people know Flex magazine. They would still want, even if it's an online version or whatever. Same thing with MD. I think the potential is still there that if somebody came along with the right vision and enough, financial backing, they could do something great with that brand.
yeah.
Because that brand goes back over 50, it's like 60 years. That magazine was around in the early mid 60s.
Wow. Did his dad start it?
No, no. His dad started the Twin Lab Supplement Company.
Okay.
It was the late Bob Hoffman who had Strength and Health, who was like Joe Weider's biggest rival. Strength and Health was the rival to all the Weider magazines. Joe Weider was out in California. Bob Hoffman he was more into Olympic weightlifting. Where's it based out of Pennsylvania, where they trained a lot of the Olympic weightlifters for the U.S. team. And he was more into weightlifting versus Weider was more into pure bodybuilding. But Strength and Health is what eventually transitioned into Muscular Development magazine.
And so, okay, that's cool to know. I didn't know that. So
Yeah,
you,
Steve didn't buy that magazine until I think 1991.
and so you get the call that it's not going to be a thing anymore. Like, what is your mindset just right then? Are you like, okay, I'm going to take a little break? Are you in panic mode? Like, what are you
Oh,
thinking?
I'll be honest. I was in panic mode. Like, shit. What do I do now? What do I do now? I mean, it's. I don't know how to put this without. There were people that said, "Oh, I would love to work with you," while I was working for MD. But as soon as I wasn't working with MD anymore, they didn't seem that interested. It's like they only wanted me when they couldn't have me. It's kind of like,
Right?
I guess, maybe if you're married and all these women are saying, "Oh," and then you're single and they don't want you anymore because a lot of people just want what they can't have. I don't know, but yeah, it did force me to bring back. I never dissolved my YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that's 17 years old, so
Oh, wow.
yeah, I was on YouTube when there was nobody on YouTube. I mean, I have videos that have like 400,000 or 500,000 views from back in the day because there was no competition.
Yeah.
Trust me, these videos were nothing special. It was a shitty camera, no editing. Just back then, you didn't have to have anything special to get great views. So I resurrected that. A woman that was a COO of MD has been helping me out with that, Jen Gerisi. But yeah, it's been cool to do the YouTube channel on my own terms,
Right.
where I'm not having to worry about. When it was with MD, a lot of the content was to satisfy a particular advertiser or sponsor. Had to be very careful with who we who we who we featured, who we didn't
I
feature.
remember the Boston one that got taken down. That was
That
great.
was that was awful. I mean, it was awful because I liked Boston a lot. God rest his soul.
Oh yeah.
It really upset me that the show got pulled like that quickly.
I think he posted it like right away, didn't he? I remember
Yeah.
watching. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could definitely see how now not having the constraints and just being able to do it yourself. Obviously, there's fear and like uncertainty with that, but like you said, now it's all you. You're in total control. So how has that transition been going for you?
Been going well. I'm very fortunate in that obviously you know what a Rolodex is? No.
Yeah, I'm 37. I'm not
I
I'm
don't I
not
don't
I'm
need
not
to
too young.
have a fax machine. You know what a fax machine is?
Oh
Anyway,
yeah,
so I'm fortunate that I've made so many friends in the industry and so many contacts in the industry that I've had people like, Jay Cutler, uh, Kevin has done. I've had a ton of people, big names, come on my channel that even though it's a channel with a little under 8,000 subscribers, it's a small channel, but just because I know these people, Branch, Evan, Jose, a ton of them have come on the channel and helped me out, give me interviews. So, but it's fun to it's as you know, it's fun and it's also kind of scary because it's so competitive out there. Everyone's got a YouTube channel. You have to learn about having the right thumbnail, the right title. I'm still making stupid mistakes. I mean, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, one of the dumbest mistakes I made on my YouTube channel in a very long time. I broke the news about Nathan Asher getting his visa to the Arnold, right? I put everything you needed to know in the thumbnail and the title and gave people no reason to click on the video. Like, oh, and they would just comment on Facebook or Instagram. That's great, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh fuck. I wanted them to go to the video, but they don't need to because now they already know pretty much everything. All that's on the video is a couple little more details, but they've got everything they need to know. So yeah, YouTube's exciting. It's challenging. And I'm trying to get better and better at it. I'm trying to learn from all my dopey mistakes I make.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? The algorithm's pretty complex. And I had my YouTube from like about 11 years ago as well. But same thing. I didn't really do anything. So I just kind of started like you. And it's been a process of learning. And it's funny because the way the algorithm finds your audience, like at first it was just finding people that fucking hated me. But now like I found like my tribe where I get much less haters and it's picking up steam and it's fun. It's cool to see. And it really shows that you've always been known as like a good guy. You're not gonna be able to keep these relationships with these guys and have them be willing to help you out if you're like a dick. So it just kind of goes to show you how important it is in this industry to, keep everything cool, make sure that you're well liked, and I'm sure that's just the way you are. But there's a lot of people who I think if they, had to do it like you would, they wouldn't be able to reach out to the same people and get the same kind of response.
Yeah, I'm unfortunate. I still have to be careful. Like Milos is a good friend of mine, but I upset him like last week very badly, and I certainly didn't mean to. I did a video called I changed the title. First it was called Samson's wife deserves an apology because a lot of people said she wasn't going to be, a lot of people doubted her abilities of coaching, and that's still going. That's an ongoing controversy. They're still arguing about, oh, he had a secret coach and this and that, but whatever. And a lot of people construed that as saying, well, Milos and Dennis James, they're the ones that need to apologize. And that was not in my mind. I didn't even see either of the Menace podcasts where supposedly they said whatever things about Marlene. I didn't see any of that. So it wasn't my intention. But sometimes, even when you're not intending to offend people, you can't, it's going to happen from time to time. And I did my best. I changed the title. And I don't, I'm sure he's still not 100% happy with me because he saw it as me sort of using that whole scenario to grab clicks and views, and it's a finally, clickbait. If you don't have a click, I used to just constantly get upset with like Generation Iron and Palumbo RX Muscle. Like, it's all clickbait. It's all clickbait titles. It's all. And then I realized after a while, once I started with my own channel and trying, as I've realized, if you don't have something like that, people don't click on it. If you don't give them a real good reason where they feel like they're going to miss out if they don't click on it, they're not going to click on it, and you don't get any views. You don't get new subscribers. So I've sort of softened my stance on that and stopped being so judgmental. Everyone's out there is doing what they feel they need to do to succeed in a extremely competitive YouTube environment.
Yeah. And so most of your income now, is that coming from YouTube? Do you have some sponsors, your online coaching, kind of as a little bit of everything?
Yeah, it's coming from a few different areas, whereas before I just had one nice big paycheck every week.
Right.
So, but like I said, it's taught me the last year has been such a lesson in gratitude. So I tore my quad late September, or late August, at the very end of August last year.
Ooh,
So
how'd you do that?
walking my dog and slipped on a wet pavement. When
That's
you
in
slip,
Boston, right? Are you in Boston?
yeah.
Yeah.
When you slip and you catch yourself before you fall, and all that pressure goes on that tendon.
Mm.
So that was probably like the 50th time that it happened. Because usually it would happen in the winter when I'm walking him and
Yeah.
it's like icy. He's an 80-pound pit bull. He pulls.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Poorly trained. Anyway, so I tore my quad. That taught me a lot about gratitude. Like, I took for granted just being able to walk around, getting upstairs, sleep normally, drive a car, forget about leg training, that was ridiculous. But that taught me one thing. And just, I had this job with MD that was really nice, steady income, being paid to do what I love to do. And I sort of had taken that for granted, not just in the sense that, well, I thought it would just go on forever, but just like I would bitch about it to like my wife or to people. And like, now you look back and like, are you really, you were complaining about that? You had it really good when you, in retrospect, I had it really, really good. So yeah, it taught me some lessons. I think if you learn from everything, it's fine. As long as you learn from anything bad that happens to you or any of your own failings, that's a win in the long run. As long as you don't repeat it's the same dumb mistakes over and over.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's cool. You get to really see what you're made of. You really get to have a higher self-esteem, in my opinion, once you have to make it on your own and you have to make shit happen, and then you do, you're like, okay, I guess I can I can do a little bit more than I give myself credit for.
Right, right.
And so you do some coaching as well. Like I think you should target that. I mean, you look fantastic for someone who's been on gear and been working out. You look young, you know. You should target
Yeah.
that. Yeah, you should target that 50. That's all real, right?
Well, I got a transplant back
Oh,
in early February.
did you go
So this was
Turkey?
all, yeah, I went to Istanbul. This was all, this was like up to here. You can still see it's not quite as thick, but I was like, my hair was receding and it wasn't, people want to say that was from gear, but I have four brothers, one younger and three older. They all have the same hair recession. And trust me, they're not friggin' gear using meatheads. It's
Yeah.
just the way our genetics are.
Yeah, so you should target that, try to make the dad bod kind of crew, get those 50 to 60-year-old guys, show them how to do it on a busy schedule. I'd market towards them if I were you.
Good
Um,
idea. Good
yeah, for
idea.
sure. What is your competition history? I know you competed quite a bit. Was your goal to turn pro originally?
No, I mean, where originally, because I started out in a natural federation called the ANBC that was mostly on the East Coast. So I competed with them from 89 all the way till 94 was the last time I did shows with them. I never had a coach, made a lot of really dumb mistakes in my contest preps in those early years. Um, Moved over to the NPC because they started putting on natural shows on the West Coast. Lonnie knows all about this. Iron Man Naturally, Iron Man Magazine was a promoter, so I did those. And then I had been around guys on gear for a while at that point, and I was very curious. And I was one of those natty guys who said one cycle is going to make me look like Dorian Yates. Of
What was
course,
your
we're
age?
all. So I hopped on when I turned 27 a couple years before. So this is late in 1996 when I did my first cycle. I didn't compete enhanced. I did that Muscle Beach show in LA a couple times. I know that I don't know if you want to count that. That's not even a real. It's put on by the Parks and Recreation Department. So I did start competing NPC. I moved back to Boston the very end of 2000. I competed NPC shows from 2002 to 2013. Didn't go to national level until I was literally a couple weeks away from turning 40. I did the Team Universe, it was still called. So I did as the best I ever did was, so there's a 24-year span of competing, 89 to 2013. Best I ever did at the national level. I took second in the open heavyweights at the universe in 2011. Uh, Same year, so 20, yeah. I also did so 2013, I did the universe again. I got fifth in the Masters over 40, and there was no weight class. It was all 25 guys, the weight range from 160 to 280, and I
Oh
got
my
fifth
God.
place in that, and I got third place in the Masters that year at the Universe. Anyway, last show I ever did was 2013 Masters Nationals, where I got my worst placing ever, shredded glutes, and I got 14th out of 31 over 40 heavyweights. I was too small. I didn't have the
Yeah.
size. So yeah, I mean, could I have turned pro? I sound like one of those sour grapes guys. There's a lot of people who have pro cards that are turned pro either as masters, bodybuilders, or classic guys that I had beaten many times and I could still beat. And I was like, wow, that guy's got a pro card and I don't have a pro card. But in retrospect, had I turned pro, fully aware I would have made a horrible pro. I would have done a couple pro shows because I would have wanted to use the card and say I competed in a pro show. But my genetics being what they were, my arms are always my downfall. My triceps never wanted to grow. My I would just had these overpowering quads, overpowering pecs. Delts were pretty good. Back came up pretty well, but the arms never matched. So I would have been a shitty pro, honestly. I wouldn't have made a dime as a pro.
And it would have, taken away from the journey you're on now. Who knows where you would have been?
Yeah, exactly.
So all the physiques that you've ever seen, like on stage or in person, what kind of stands out? That was a question someone had asked. They said that, they wanted to know because you've seen a lot. What's something that really just stands out to this day?
The three that stand out that I'll never forget are Flex Wheeler at his best, Dorian Yates at his best, and Ronnie Coleman at his best. Those three, when they were in their peak form, it was just something out of this world, like generational talent. We'll never see their like again. And I got to give Phil Heath, who's more recent. Phil Heath at his best was pretty damn great too. But there was just some special quality. Flex had something extra. He looked like a living sculpture. Dorian, just the grand hard look that he had and brought to stage, that muscle density. And Ronnie was just the freakiest freak of all, just muscle hanging off the bone. It was, any three of those guys would be Mr. Olympia right now. I have no doubt in my mind. If they were competing at their best right now, none of these guys right now, and that's no disrespect to them. It's just they were just something unique and special.
Which flex are you talking about? Because I mean, there's the kind of the two of them, right? The 98, 99, or
I mean,
93.
I like both. There's two very different. The early flex, like when he won that '93 Arnold Classic, and even when he got second at the Olympia that year, he looked pretty damn good at his first Olympia. And I think it was the '98 Arnold that he won, where he was much bigger, and he had sort of SEO look going on the arms and shoulders, but he still had such tremendous shape, and the condition was really good there. I think he did the British Grand Prix.
That was
Was that
crazy.
year too?
Him and
That was a really
LeBron
good.
and Ronnie, that three of them looking nuts.
I shouldn't have left Kevin out of that conversation. Kevin was something we'll never see that again either. It was just that really full blown, the full muscle look that he had. Those shoulders, the triceps, the chest, even his quads. I mean, at his best, he was a sight to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like Kevin a lot. I kind of see like Martin as a little mix between him and Phil Heath in certain ways. Obviously, those are that's a lot of a lot of praise, but just the some of the shape and some of the roundness, I kind of see him in between those two. So I'm really looking forward to see what Martin's going to be looking like.
Yeah.
So what else are you working on right now? You have anything else you're working on in the future? Future projects, future income or anything?
I mean, there's something I can't say much about. It's based out of Europe. It's a gentleman I've been talking to. It would be an online magazine. It would be a new YouTube channel. But it could be something. It's going to be something. It's in the works right now. That's why I'm not at liberty to say much about it. But
They're going to buy
I
the
would
MD
be.
name and do it from
It
there?
wouldn't be the MD name. It would be a different name, but it would be. I always felt like MD should have adapted to the times and the technology better. If we had adapted more to YouTube and a digital platform and social media and things like that, I think we could have kept going. This is the gentleman that's putting it together. He's a younger guy. He's already he's got a track record related to the industry that he's done very well already in the first time trying it. So he's definitely someone who's got vision. He's got financial backing, and he, myself, and it's going to be myself and Giles Thomas who are going to be the
Nice.
main.
I was about to ask you if Giles is going to be
Giles and I are
involved.
going to be the main faces of it. We're going to be producing the content for the most part, and it's going to be similar to what MD was. It's sort of what MD could have been, if I
Yeah.
want to put it that way. And I will be just so that's my element. I mean, I love the YouTube stuff, but writing writing is something I really miss. I haven't been doing much writing over the past year since MD folded, and that bothers me because that was my fort, that was my bread and butter. It's something I'm not the best writer, but I was pretty damn good at it, and I enjoyed it. I love sitting down and composing, looking at taking a blank screen and making something really worthwhile out of it that people are going to get value, entertainment, and education from.
Yeah, me too. Would you still be doing your YouTube or would you kind of chill out on that? Or, I mean, I don't think you should. I think you
If
should keep that going.
Yeah, I would keep my channel, but I would probably be diverting a lot more of my time and attention to that YouTube channel because I want to, if this guy has enough faith in me to bring me on, uh, and believes in me that much, I want to make his brand a huge success. So I
Do you
would
feel like
keep
you
my
just do
channel.
better like in that
Hmm?
environment where you feel like you just kind of perform better in that environment where you don't have to think so much. You can just focus on the task at hand and get your check
Yeah,
and yeah.
I do like that. I mean, it sounds lazy, but I like knowing that I just need to work my ass off and the money's guaranteed. Whereas the YouTube thing, I work very hard on these videos. Sometimes they get great views and sometimes they don't. So it's hit or miss. Sometimes you're making money off of them, sometimes you're not. And
Yeah,
sometimes the effort sometimes for the ones you're not making money off sometimes might be a lot greater. And you might feel personally like that was actually a way better video. Why did people watch this one? They didn't watch that one. You know,
wasn't clickbaity enough. Is there
whatever.
is
Yeah.
there any timeline at all for that?
We're looking at early 2025. Yeah.
Nice. So we'll get the
It's
Arnold
in the it's in the
coverage, hopefully.
yeah. Like Giles and I, we were both sort of winking when we did the Olympia, when we were doing live coverage at Olympia weekend. We're saying you're never going to see us missing from an Olympia again. We'll be there for sure
Yeah.
next time. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was wondering when you said you weren't there, have you not made many of them, or you made pretty much all the Olympias?
I've only missed that was probably the fourth one I've missed since 1991, the first one I ever went to.
Oh,
I
wow.
haven't missed I haven't missed many.
Did you take your do you have how many kids do you have? Do you just have the one son, or do you have
Two. I have a 30-year-old daughter, a 25-year-old son.
did you ever take them with you? Were they ever involved with any of this? They get to meet any of
My
the guys?
Ironically, so last year when it was in Orlando, my daughter lives in Miami. She took the train up and she was with me for 2 days at last year's Olympia. And the cool thing was she got to be at that press conference where I was one of the panelists asking the questions. So it was cool to have her, and she was helping me out, holding when I was doing like live wrap ups for MD and stuff. So it was cool to have her there and be part of my world because she'd gone to like amateur shows, and I think she went to one New York Pro. Yeah, she went to one New York Pro when she was in high school with me, but for the most part, she hasn't gone to any of them.
What I would love is if they got like you or Giles or somebody like you to commentate with one of the ex pros like Phil, because it's like, I
Oh, I
mean,
mean,
the commentary was kind of dog shit. Like it
I
wasn't
mean,
really
well, like I sent out letters to all the promoters a couple months ago offering my services for live stream pay-per-view commentary. So we'll see if any of them get. 'Cause Giles does a ton of those.
yeah.
He does probably eight or more of those a year. Like he's doing the Romania Muscle Fest. He's done the Prague show a few times. Yeah, he's done a ton. Emilio has him do the shows in Spain and Portugal a lot of times. He's done a ton of Italy. Yeah, I mean he's really good at it. That's my dream gig for a pay-per-view is me and Giles and I. It would be great to have a star athlete too, of course, but I feel like Giles and I would do a fantastic job together.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely need an analytical eye like one of you guys, because it was all like hugs and kisses and rainbows. Like, and it's not, you don't want to be, I think, remember, was it the Arnold that Sean Ray commentated on, where it was just shitting on everybody? Like, you don't want to be
Yeah,
like that, but you do need to like kind of like show the
somewhere
strengths
in
and
the middle.
weaknesses. Yeah, exactly. And I think I remember when Kai did it, I don't remember what it was for. His was like all woo woo and just like nothing but positivity, which, like I said, somewhere in the middle. Does Giles have any like ongoing issues from the heart thing, or is he all good from
No,
that?
no, he's good. He's good. He's back. He's been back training. He's put all his muscle back on. He's feeling great. He actually ditched all his heart medications that they had him on
Oh,
because
is that is
he
that
felt
good?
like he felt the side effects, and then he's gotten scans and blood work since then, and he's doing just as well without them. But now he
Nice.
doesn't have a lot of those medications have side effects. I stopped taking. I was on a statin, a torvastatin, a generic Lipitor, and I felt that actually contributed toward my quad tear because it
Yeah, I
weakens
believe it.
tendons.
Yeah,
Yeah, Guy Cisternino said he's had like 6 muscle tears since because he's on statins. He's got a higher calcium score, and I said, you know what? I don't know. It came out in some research a couple months ago that unless you've had a heart attack or you have a lot of blockage already, there's no compelling reason to use a
oh
statin.
dude, I
So I
wrote
did
about that
stopped it.
12 years ago. I wrote an article like so deep. I went to all to the actual data and to the studies, and I said the same exact thing. I go, there's no reason to take a statin unless you're a male who has recently had a cardiac event. Like, other than that, you're gonna die sooner from something else. You're gonna have a bunch of fucking side effects because it stops the whole melatonin pathway, and there's a lot of stuff that I mean, we know how it is pharmacy. They find one tiny use for something and they extrapolate and try to make a bunch of money. So that's good. So you notice a pretty big difference with that at all, as far as just
Well,
like any.
I haven't torn anything else, so because
Are
I
you fully
had
recovered?
yeah, I mean, in my good quad, the left one, I had suffered like a minor tear about 4 or 5 months ago. And it was shortly after that I started looking to the statin connection. And I had like a little tear, a little minor tear in my upper back, and like one of the teres minor, whatever. I don't notice any, I have my first calcium score in 4 years I'm having in a couple weeks. So we'll see if there's any change. But I do the EKGs and the ultrasound every year. I have a cardiologist, and the blood work, everything was fine. I mean, my heart's, knock on wood. It's a little bigger, of course. Anyone that is going to have a little bit of that extra cardiac growth, but well, everything's looking good. I'm knock on wood. I'm doing well.
So you're not limited in your training at all? You're able to hit it hard with the quads and stuff now?
I'm never going to go as heavy as I did before. I have a fear, and I was able to get back. I'd say 90% of my left quad, and about which I just stopped training for a while, and like 85% of my right quad with pretty moderate weights. I don't go that heavy. Like I used to, I was a guy that had to squat 405 as my top set, a good set or two. I had to do that for years and years or more. And now I don't even squat anymore. If I do, it's like a Smith machine. Yeah, I mean, I'm not limited. I could do it. It's just the risk to benefit ratio for me at 55. Once you've torn a quad and you've gone through that whole rehab, like I never ever want to go through all this shit again. That was brutal. It's a long recovery.
It was a complete tear?
It was a full tear. It was rolled
Oh,
up to the hip. Yeah, the whole thing
isn't
was
that
gone.
that happened to Centopani, right? Like both of them, didn't it? Like same
Yes,
thing.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's out there with you. Yeah, I think that happens so often out there in the winter time. That's the bummer. I've heard quite a few
Yeah.
instances of that with quad tears.
Freaking ice sucks.
Well, well, man, I appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to cover? Anything else you want to put out there? I appreciate your time. It's been really fun.
No, we just plug my channel, Ron Harris Muscle, and my Instagram is the same, Ron Harris Muscle. If anyone wants to reach out to me for coaching, if you're an older guy, especially, I know what you're going through. I'm 55 years old myself, a dad, so yeah, I like working with lifestyle clients more so than competitors. Just they're a competitor, unless they win, a lot of times they're not 100% satisfied, which it's not in my as a coach, as you know, you can bring people in at their best, and then it all depends on who else shows up that day. Whereas
Yeah.
you take like I had a guy who's his goal was to be in great shape for his 60th birthday. I got him lean, I got put more muscle on him. He was so happy, so grateful. Whereas, someone else, you can get them looking perfect for a show or as good as they can look. And if they place third, they say, well, I need to find a different coach. All right, good luck.
Yeah, and the
So,
gym pop, they're just not as crazy as
right,
bodybuilders,
right.
they're much more appreciative. Awesome, man. Yeah, definitely check out Ron's page because he is the go-to guy for the bodybuilding coverage. You and Giles, you guys are my main one. I don't really watch anyone else. A lot of these new kids that come on here and report the news, they try to throw some analysis in, and it's just fucking horrible. I'm like, okay, maybe just report the news. You don't have to give your analysis with it. So thanks for doing what you're doing, man. And thank you so much for coming on.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you having me on, Jonathan. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, brother.